Has it become more easily or more difficult to settle down as a foreigner in Silicon Valley? As a foreigner in Silicon Valley to start a business?
Okay,
because
great
of
question.
regulations and visa?
So the question is, over the years, is it going to become easier or more difficult to come as an international, immigrant to Silicon Valley? So a couple of different things are going on. First, under the Bush administration, after the Twin Towers fell in New York City and all that, visas were harder to get from some countries than others, right? So there was some restriction. That has opened up with the Obama administration. The second thing that happens is when the economy is bad, like it is right now, there are not as many people applying for visas. So if you're an international person now and you want to get to the U.S., it's actually much easier to get there now than if, like in 1999, when there was a big boom and everybody was trying to get to the United States because there were all sorts of jobs. There is continued debate in the U.S. Congress about trying to find ways to, it's a very funny kind of schizophrenic problem, because the United States, in a sense, was born and founded, and the entire history of the United States has been people from other countries coming there and starting a new life. And without this continued international traffic, the U.S. would start to kind of freeze up as an economy. Nonetheless, there will be some senators and some congressmen and some states who will say, well, we have to protect our jobs for our citizens, so we have to make sure to keep the foreigners out. But what has happened is good sense has prevailed in virtually all cases, and particularly if you are reasonably well educated, right? So someone from abroad who has a university education or who may be coming to finish up some additional education is much more likely to be able to get a visa to your liking, to be able to then apply for permanent residency. The other thing that happens is there's, in U.S. universities, if you go for your master's degree, you can stay in the United States for a year or so to do practical training related to your master's. And so a lot of international folks do that and wind up in jobs for a year, and then they find a company that's willing to support them to apply for an H-1B visa and that sort of thing as well. And Silicon Valley has more companies who know how to do that because it has a much higher international population than many parts of the United States. And so it's, of all places, one of the best places in the United States to come if you're not born there. And an example of what's happened at Stanford, even the last, let's say from 93 to now, in 1993, 2/3 of my students were U.S. citizens. In 2000, by 2002 or 3, 2/3 of my students are international citizens. And many of them do stay on and wind up getting jobs in companies that will sponsor them for the H-1B visa, and then they apply for permanent residency after that. In fact, a bunch of my students from 99, 2000, 2001 recently celebrated becoming U.S. citizens. So I think it's easier now than it was under, say, 2001 or 2 under the Bush administration.